Yeshivah Poppers and, of course, Coach himself. We're going to get right to it because our guest is already on the air with us. It is Flatbush incoming athletic director, Adam Ginsburg. Mr. Ginsburg, thanks so much for joining the Harold Katz podcast tonight.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Coach, by all means, take the floor.
Adam, so first of all, congratulations on the new job. But if people may not know this, you're actually a basketball coach. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Before we do that, let's for especially Akiva and Oren, you want to kind of explain to them your first introduction to me?
My first real introduction. Without you knowing me, I was working at 5-star basketball camp at Robert Morris College. And I remember Tamir Goodman coming up to participate in camp, and you were there. And then at night we went out as coaches, and Kevin O'Neill, who was, I think he was coaching in the NBA at the time, was there and was giving a talk on man-to-man defense. And I remember it was quiet. Everybody was kind of shy, afraid to ask questions. And then all of a sudden, this guy in the back started asking a whole bunch of questions on things that made sense or didn't make sense. And there was a whole back and forth. And I remember looking over, I was like, that guy's pretty tough. And, fast forward a little bit past that. And, then you and I got connected in a different way.
Right. So let's, I think he might have still been at Marquette, but you might be right. He might have gone back he might have been up in the league, but let's do that. So when did you start coaching? And for most people that don't know, you spent most of your years in college coaching.
Yep. So for me, I went to SUNY Buffalo as an undergrad and knew I wanted to get into college coaching. And some people that were involved at my high school and a summer camp I worked at knew the new incoming Buffalo coach, and I got to be a student manager there for 4 years.
Who was that?
Tim Cohane was the coach there, and by the time he has an amazing story, but in a nutshell, he was in coaching, had a head coaching job at Dartmouth, got let go, ended up going on to Wall Street, becoming a multimillionaire, got back into coaching. And in that time, he actually studied Bobby Knight, spent a lot of time at Indiana. And Indiana is huge with how they involve managers. And so I didn't know that going in, but he totally let me get entrenched in the program. By the time I was a senior, we would practice each day at 5:45 in the morning, but have 5 a.m. meetings. And he would let me come to all the meetings and let me have a huge role in practice where I would call out different drills, and just totally brought me under his wing. And at the same time, I started coaching at a high school. So essentially I went to college, didn't go to class, slept during the day after practice, and then went to high school practice and coached at Nichols, the Nichols School where Christian Laettner actually went.
Right.
But from there, I went to the University of Florida. Was able to support the basketball team there. Billy Donovan was the head coach. And my last year...
Adam, I want everybody to understand. I want everybody to understand where you've been and who you've been through. In other words, Coach Donovan's, it's just a little coaching pedigree. And so don't when you go to Florida, you're working for, what are you doing with Coach Donovan? You're just a manager up there? You're a grad assistant? What are you doing?
Well, I was a grad assistant, so I was able to teach classes in the College of Health and Human Performance over there, teach PE classes. But I spent time in the office. At that time, we were handwriting recruits, addresses on their letters. So I would do little things like that. I would also do video exchange with one of the coaches there, Tim Maloney, who really, really took me under his wing. But that would be, at that time, you'd send FedEx blank tapes to
Adam. Yeah. How many? So let's get into that, because I used to have to do that. You send the blank tapes to the team you're playing. And how many, all right, it's early November. And is that when you start sending out tape and say, we need X, Y, and Z? And how many tapes did you want of the same team? In other words, you're playing, you're Florida and you're playing, Buffalo. So how many tapes of Buffalo did you go to the, assuming that, you're playing them later in the month or in December, how many films did you send out? How many empty videotapes? Just so people know what it used to be like. How many empty videotapes did you send out? Did you go for 3? Did you want all of them?
He would want their last 5 games. So
right.
early in the season was tough. So you would try to get as many from the previous season as you could. But early in the year was tough. But you really needed. So like if Florida was playing Northeastern, the second game of the year, and Northeastern only had 1 game, and Northeastern played Boston University, you were becoming best friends with the Boston University coaching staff to make sure you got that tape because it needed to be sent out the next morning so it got to you the next day. And you were sitting on eggshells praying that the FedEx guy came with that video.
Right. And not only that, Adam, but now Florida's getting tape requests from, Memphis or Georgetown. And so you have to make sure that when your game is over, you're popping a number of films in your machine. And did you have various machines that you're taping from, like a place like Florida? Because I had one. Like at UMBC, we had one. You pop it in, then you get it out. You pop the next one in, and you're there till 4 a.m. making film so that they could get out, right? So like you do, say 4 or 5, you put your game in and 5 tape at the same time or something like that?
Yeah, they had 5. You could do 5 at a time. But the thing about that is you wanted to make sure you were delivering what everybody else wanted because it would always come back around where you would need a favor from somebody else. So you had to make sure you did it. And inevitably, you would need that favor, and people would. And the other big thing was, like, you had to pay extra for Saturday delivery, right? So people were like, that was the premium. That was another thing.
I need the 10:30. We're practicing it too. I'm gonna need that by 10:30, right?
That's right.
Right. So this is interesting to me because I used to have to do this, and I really don't think like. You don't have the time, or at least maybe you didn't. Coach Donovan might have had other assistants who he might have sent live. But I remember there was a point, I don't know if you were working then, where they told you had to limit your live attendance at games.
That was before me. Like 2 or 3 years before that happened. They eliminated live scouting to try to even the playing field because people couldn't afford to travel everywhere.
Right. So were you there when satellite came up and all the games were on satellite? Not satellite like we have now, like the big dish and everything. You didn't have. You had to get the. You ever have this happened to me. You ever have your game film break? And so, and you're like, dude, I'm sorry, I can't. I can give you last year's film. So you make some enemies there too now. Who's playing for Florida at the time? Anybody we would know? Was Mike Miller there?
Well, Mike Miller was my second year there. Mike Miller was there, but Jason Williams, White Chocolate, he was there, and he got drafted as the 7th pick. I think to the Kings right after that. But Mike Miller, Udonis Haslem, who's still playing with the Heat, Brinley Wright, Major Parker, Teddy Dupont, Brett Nelson, Matt Bonner. Matt Bonner was there right after I left. But it was loaded.
Yeah, it's loaded. So how many years in Florida? Just the 2 for grad school.
Yep.
So does Coach Donovan get you a job? Do you go get another job on your own?
What happened was my last year at Buffalo, a assistant coach came on, this guy, Tim Maloney, who encouraged me. He knew I wanted to coach in college, and he had just left coaching high school in Florida, but had a relationship with Coach Donovan. He told me, apply to grad school down there. If you get in, I think I could help you. In the interim time, I got into grad school, and he actually got a job at Florida in Gainesville. So the 2 years I was there, I worked with. Yeah, I mean, he let me do everything, and really got my.
You are the only grad student, right? You're the only.
No. There were multiple grads. Yep, and
all right. It's the SEC. How stupid am I? Yeah.
No, so there was plenty there, but he really got me connected to all the coaches and made sure that I was able to be involved. And so once I was graduating from Florida, he actually called Coach Jaskowski at Towson and said, I got a guy for you that would be great. Coach Jazz didn't have a spot for me at the time, but this guy, Coach Maloney, encouraged me. He was like, why don't you just like volunteer and figure out what to do? It's like this guy, Coach Jazz, a really good guy. So I went.
You know him from Florida State. Is that how you knew him? Or
yeah, he knew him from Jazz when Jazz was at Miami.
Miami, right.
And this guy, Tim Maloney, actually coached Teddy Dupay in high school and had a bunch of Division I. So he knew everybody. And so I took a chance and went to Towson as a volunteer assistant, which was actually a volunteer video coordinator, and it literally made nothing. Worked in the Ravens Stadium to try to make some extra money. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, moved with me, and she was working. And then I ended up teaching some kinesiology classes at Towson to just make ends meet. And I was there for 2 months, and the third assistant coach that was there just couldn't swing it. It wasn't a very high paying job, and he had some family issues going on with his mom, and he just couldn't swing it. And Coach Jazz called me in, and he said, look,
yeah, go ahead.
I walked in as a 22 or 23 as a Division I assistant coach.
Right. And but see, I don't think people get it. But when a coach sees you put in the time for free, that's the men from the boys right there. Like if you you know this, if you everybody says they want to coach in college, but the guy who's doing it for free, he's giving up his life to coach in college. Most guys won't do that. Like, well, coach, could you get me this? Or could you get me that? Maybe I could get this. Or maybe can I get some of your camp money or whatever, which I think most coaches do anyway for their assistants. But the guy, so you're spending your months in front of Coach Jazz, without getting paid. And he knows that. And every day he goes to work and sees you there early in the morning when he shows up. Dude, this kid's not getting paid and he's here. Mm-hmm. I leave, I get here, he's still here. Okay, I need a spot, right? Is that pretty much how this works out?
When I initially told my parents that I wanted to go, I just got a master's degree.
You're Jewish.
I told my parents that I wanted to do it. My dad was like, absolutely not. And we went back and forth for a little bit. And I remember 2 days later, he's like, look, I know you've wanted to coach forever. If you feel this is right, I want you to chase your dream. Go for it. We support you going for it. And that was big because it was hard because my dad was like, you can't go and take a job for nothing. And I'm like, it's what you got to do. It's going to be my only chance.
It is what you got to do. It is what you got to do. I did it. If you really want to do it, and that's how they know that you're the real deal. You're the goods. Okay, so you're at Towson. How long are you there for?
I was there 2 years, and during the first year, that's when you and I got connected through Tamir's recruitment.
Yeah, and so after you go to UMass. Was that UMass next? You went someplace
After
else?
2000, I went to Northeastern.
Right. Right.
I was there for 4 years, and then UMass.
Who'd you work for?
At Northeastern?
Yeah.
I worked for Ron Everhart, and Frank Martin was on staff also.
Awesome.
And those were some phenomenal days because Ron, he's so tough, and Frank is amazing. So it was a great learning opportunity for me, to really. And when I initially got to Northeastern, I was what was called the restricted earnings coach.
Sure, I was that too. Were you involved in the Debt lawsuit?
I was only there for 1 year, and then it transitioned to you could go and recruit. So again, I fell into a good situation because I was there and then got the opportunity to get on the road and recruit.
Yeah, I don't think people get it. There are no more restricted earnings kind of jobs than a restricted earning coach in Division One.
Yeah,
you're making buckets. You're slave labor.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're nowhere near minimum wage. I know I was restricted earnings, and when I was at UMBC, we practiced at 5:30 in the morning. So I got to put the stanchions out. You know what I mean? It's 4:45. Them big stanchions, right? You got to bring them out, you got to raise them up, and all that nonsense. So you're doing that with hot chocolate. It's December 18th, and you're freezing. So I feel you with the restricted earnings.
Go back, but I did that at Buffalo. I had to be in the office at 5 a.m. in the winter, and I didn't have de-icer. I would literally boil water, go outside, throw it on my lock so I could open up the car to be able to drive.
Right. And did you have to ice the entrance for the players, or they had somebody do that for you?
They were equipped in Buffalo because that's just the way of life there with how much it snows.
That's true. Yeah,
when you get a little dusting and they close school. So
that's true. Okay, so then that's a great job, by the way, the Northeastern job, just based on staff and everything. And then you go work for Bruiser Flint at UMass after that?
No, it was Travis Ford, but I ended up being able to get there because Tim Maloney had left Florida and went to work with Travis at Eastern Kentucky. They made the NCAA tournament.
Right.
Travis gets the UMass job. So they're coming from Kentucky to Massachusetts. And Tim Maloney says, I got a great guy for you.
Yeah.
And I get hired there and was with Travis for 3 years, made 2 NITs. First year first NIT, we actually were co-champions of the league and then lost to West Virginia when John Beeline was there.
Right.
I think West Virginia won the whole thing that year.
They were
good. They were
good. They were good.
Yeah. So, and then the following year with Travis, we made the NIT finals. Actually beat Florida in Madison Square Garden in the Final Four, and then lost to Ohio State. What's that?
One of those things was that Wednesday night? Was that Wednesday night of the Final Four week?
Yes.
Right? That's when you. I might have watched that game at the Final Four. I remember that. I remember that. So,
or there would have. I think it's Tuesday.
That was Tuesday. It wasn't Monday, Wednesday.
I think Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, it could be Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah,
but I would go early because, I hate doing this, but I would take Coach Newell to dinner. You know what I mean? Because he would go early and leave before, how some guys do it. They go, they just go there, and then he's the older guy, so he's going home. He's not going to hang around for the whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just, some of the best basketball days of my life were just sitting there talking basketball with him. And everybody comes around it, Eddie Sutton and Dean Smith and Behan. It was just really just a great experience. Anyway, so then Travis leaves, right? He goes to, he got a big job, right? He got
Oklahoma State.
And you did not go, right?
Right. Yep.
You stayed and Bruiser got the job.
No, Derek Kellogg got the job at so when Travis, and this is the tough part about college basketball, Travis went from one geographic region to another, and he's like, look, I'll have a spot for you. I just don't know what it's going to be. You're going to have to wait. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. And then, Derek came on, and him and I connected. Actually, when I was supposed to interview with him, my wife was 9 months pregnant, and she had went for a regular appointment, and they're like, we got to go and your baby's not growing anymore. We got to go and induce labor. So I was like, okay, I can't interview. I'll see you.
But he hires you anyway.
Right. But Derek's wife was 9 months pregnant with his child at the same time. They're 3 days apart. So we were like connected that way with that. And, we had success at UMass, and the administration was like, Adam's done a good job. I think he would help you. It's little things, Harold, right? So Jack Lehman is like the court's named after him at UMass. Okay. Yeah. And his wife is very involved in the program in a very positive way. And, I had just been myself, met her, said hello, been friendly. And when Derek got the job, Coach Calipari had told him, don't hire anybody you don't know. You don't want to keep anybody that's there. And I found out after the fact that Rita Lehman called Cal and said, hey, this guy Adam would be good for Derek. I know you don't like to tell people to hire people they don't know, but he would help. And after that, Cal was like, Derek, you can hire this guy. Yeah. So, that was a lot of,
I think, as you know, Cal's thinking behind that is, I need loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you need, I don't think people get it. The number one job of you as an assistant is you have to be loyal to your boss. And your boss might run stuff that you sit there and go, God, this is so stupid. Why are we doing this? You know what I mean? But you can't say it. You can't think it. I mean, you think it, but you can't voice it. You maybe you could close the door and talk to your boss, but the number one thing you have to be as an assistant coach is loyal. I mean, you're a lifetime assistant in the Division I level. Did I miss something? What else do you need other than being loyal to your boss?
No, that's number one. And then obviously the recruiting piece of it, and what people don't understand is you're much more of a recruiter as an assistant than you are a coach. Your job is to get everything lined up for the head coach to close the deal out. And that's where you're going to be evaluated or externally be viewed as having a chance to move up the ladder if your notoriety is as a recruiter. But people on the outside don't understand because they just see, okay, you're coaching, or you might be your scout. So you're like standing up. No, you have a lot of places you have very limited access to the coaching piece, and the coach is like, get me players. Like, you need to get players so we can continue, and we can get the next contract.
All right, Adam, hold up. So let's get on that for a second.
Okay.
Your worst loss with Travis Ford. Okay, you remember it? At home. Let's go. Worst loss at home.
At home.
And when you get back to the office, does this conversation ever veer to, we got to get a better player at this spot? We can't go with Joe Blow. Like that night, you're dealing with the aftermath. He's looking at the box, and the box is total crap across two guys' numbers. And he says to you, we got to get better at that position. Who do we got? What are we doing, right? I mean, is that not what happens in your office?
We had a 9 p.m. ESPN game at home on Valentine's Day against Fordham. Play terrible. Game ends 11:15. We're in the locker room watching the game, and he's going through everything. This guy, he's not going to help us. He can't. Like everything. So exactly what you said is exactly what transpired. This particular team ended up turning it around, and winning 6 straight games. But he was a maniac in practice the next 3 days.
Sure.
But yeah, it goes there right away.
Yeah, right. And this is what I wanted to say, because for kids who are or adults who think they know what they're talking about, who are going to watch this podcast, what they don't understand is when you have a dog crap game like that, you're in the locker room, and once the kids leave, only thing you're talking about is it'll go something like this. How bad are we on the defensive end? How come so-and-so can't take care of the basketball? I mean, we're getting him wide open looks. He can't make a shot. We have got to find somebody. Like, look at our bench. There's nobody here who can do it. You got to get us players who can make that shot. We're going to get that shot in our offense every night. You got to get a guy who's going to get a stop. And so what people don't get, and so you'll go out and recruit. And you'll find that kid, and then that kid's body language will be such dog crap. You'll just go, Coach, I thought I had a guy, but are you going to want to deal with this? You show it on the film. You show him film. Or you take him to the game. You say, Coach, I'd love this kid, but we can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, kids don't understand how much their body language, or the parent in the stands who's going nuts on the kid, or the kid's always looking at the dad, and you're a college coach recruit, and you go, okay, I want nothing to do with that. Yes or no?
No, true. 100%. Yeah.
Yep. And so, people don't get it. They don't, the inner workings of basketball, everybody, like, this is so important that you said this, that sometimes, okay, practice. We're going to run over 7 different sets. Travis is going to do all of it, or Derek's going to do all of it, right? You're standing on the side, and all you do is when he rips some kid, you grab him over there and you whisper something in his ear on how he's supposed to get better, but you don't really say much if he's going off. Fact or no?
No, fact. Yeah, absolutely.
And your coaching that you get to do is in that kid's ear when he gets rotated. Like, right? Like when his rep is over, he comes out and you just walk over to him, pat him on the back, say, hey, look, next time, blah, 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 blah. So people have this is great because we're getting really deep in the weeds here on how this thing really works. Okay, so let's do it. So then you're with Derek, and Derek's for how long now?
9 years. We were together 9 years.
9 years. So now you're at UMass now for, what's that?
12 years.
12 years. 12 years before Bruce shows up.
And the business side of stuff, my family and I haven't had to move. We have young children, so we haven't felt what that's like.
Right.
We've been able to be entrenched in one community. Saw UMass at the, make the NCAA tournament, 4 or 5 NITs, move into a $30 million practice facility, just like an NBA facility. The team is able to take charter flights.
Right.
We're recruiting at a very high level. And then, after Derek's 9th year, we play in the conference tournament, and lose in the conference tournament. I'm getting messages from media people saying, I'm here, you guys are in trouble. I hear it's happening today. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I actually messaged my wife. I'm like, I don't know. Something might be happening here. So I want you to hear from me. We get back to the hotel and Derek gets fired, literally 30 minutes after we lose in the conference tournament, which was insane from
you have a chance to go to NIT that year?
No, but we had
or go home.
Right, but we had the 30th ranked recruiting class in the country that year, right. And they were all freshmen, and all showed different levels of promise. But whatever, it was just, that's the
Adam, let's stop right there for a second, because at Yeshivah they got all freshmen last year, and what people don't get is let them know how difficult it is to win right away. But what's this? How many years ago was that? 15?
No, this was 2017. So not too long.
So it's before. Well, I guess one and done's never really got to UMass, but I'm saying before, when you're doing that, how hard is it to win consistently with freshmen, or is your entire year a roller coaster ride?
No, well, I'll answer that first to go back. My last years with Travis Ford, we had less heralded players, a lot of transfers who are now 23, 24 years old, picked 11th in the league, finished third, can overachieve because you have mature, experienced people who have played 100 college games.
Right.
So go far ahead. And then now fast forward to that last year at UMass where we have like 6 returning players, all who played limited minutes on really good teams.
Right.
Because really good players before them, but now they're juniors.
Right.
But they played a lot. And you're bringing in 6 freshmen who are all heralded but have played 0 games. So the makeup of that group was really difficult because you had experienced guys
with no experience
who didn't really contribute to the success because that wasn't their role. And then you have all these guys getting all this recognition but haven't played 1 minute. So meshing all that together, it was messy for a long period of time. And then the freshmen themselves just making it through, forget a week, 3 days of going to class, of practices, film session, tutors, travel.
Right.
They're completely overwhelmed. So by the time you make it to practice, they're just exhausted. So they can't even compete the way they need to. And so that was a tough process to watch that unfold. And you know that those freshmen are really talented, but they make they're talented, but they make all these mistakes. So then you have these less talented guys who are like tough and gritty, but they're not flashy. And getting that balance is really, really tough. And it's trying to win with freshmen exclusively is really hard. You can get a lot of good contributions from them. And you see even at the highest level of college basketball, the freshmen that when the tough plays need to be made, they just haven't endured and done it enough to be able to do it.
Right. So when you're like Yeshivah and you start basically 5 freshmen or 4 freshmen, you're gonna. I try to say it all year. You're just gonna struggle because that's the nature of the beast. And all the fans, of course, are knocking on your door, going, "What the hell's going on? What dude? They're freshmen. Let them breathe. They're gonna make mistakes, and we're gonna have to deal with it." And if you're in a season like that and you win 15, 16 games, you've had a hell of a year now. You know what I mean? Like with freshmen, get out of here. Like, I don't care who you are, where you're playing. People don't get it. They don't have an idea. So Derek gets fired half hour after the conference tournament. Would you like to share why?
Yep. What's that?
Would you like to share why, or are we going to move on from that?
New AD had come in and he wanted to go in a different direction. So,
So playing the conference final with freshmen, that wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
All right. And then Bruiser comes in, right?
No, then Matt McCall came into UMass, but not
very long, right? He wasn't there very long.
He was there, I think, 5 years. He ended up being there.
Okay. All right.
But for me, I went. My wife and I were having our ready to have our 3rd child, and I was. Fortunately, at that time, I had accrued enough years at UMass where my severance was going to be okay for a year. So we were trying to evaluate what I would do. And I initially thought, let me stay home. I'll go to like St. Louis to watch Travis, South Carolina to Frank. I'll go down to Oklahoma City because Coach Donovan was coaching there. And Mark Dagnat, who's now the Oklahoma City coach, was coaching their G League team. Right. And I was like, I'll spend time.
Around.
What's that?
Bang around and hang out with somebody. Yeah. You're banging around.
I'll just hang out and see what's up. But then in October, Iona called and they had an opening and my wife and I were interested in moving to New York. And, we were like, okay, let's give this a shot. And I went there, started like November 1st, and we ended up Tim Kluse, who's a phenomenal coach, and his background is high school coaching and is phenomenal. And that's another thing that, like, in my experience, the head coaches that I said, like, they've all been at the collegiate level, but the best coaches that I worked with in my college experience all were high school, all built their coaching resume in high school. They
just be a cool phone call when your wife answers the phone. Yo, it's this guy Tim. He owns a college. Tim, I own a college. Hey, this guy Tim owns a college. Maybe you can get a job, right? So, right, that's very true. I've always said this. Like I was knocking around at UMBC a little bit, and I'm sitting on a bench watching games and just kind of going like, man, why would he do that? Like I've coached against way better stuff in high school. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate to, I don't usually drop any names here, but I was in Vegas one time, and Jerry Tarkanian was shooting his radio show in a casino because he's Tark. And so after that, I was interested in the amoeba, so he was playing it at the time, and I also what he was doing a little bit offensively, and I introduced myself because, like you said, I just talk and do that. And so he says, I said, Coach, I'm just a high school coach. And he looked at me and goes, no, you're a basketball coach. So high school coaches can coach now. Like, he just kind of do not do that. He said, you're a basketball coach. I just happen to have a job here in Vegas. You got a job wherever you're at. I said, well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit. He says, here's my number. And the last 4 digits are 1,000. So I'm thinking it's his office phone. So I get back to Baltimore. I call him up, and his wife Lois answers the phone. And I'm like, is Coach in? Go, well, no, he went to work. I'm sorry. Like, this is Lois. This is his wife. Who's that? I tell her, so we talked for like 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
And like that, but I got to pick his brain. He gave me his home number because I wasn't a high school coach. I was a basketball coach. I have so much respect for him. I will never say a bad word about him. He just treated me like, guys like this. They treat you like you are in their profession, and I'm going to give back to our profession. Like, that's pretty much. You work for guys like that. You work with guys like that, and they don't big time you or nothing like that. That was like such a monumental thing. I learned such a great lesson from him with that. And I bothered him all the time, and he took every call, and we stay on the phone for hours especially in the off season, and he would walk me through everything he's doing. And not that I'm going to play it, but I got to know how to beat it when I see it, right? I mean, like, that's right. So that being said, okay, so you're at Iona. Remember, I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to forget it. So you're at Iona, and how long are you there for?
Just that 1 year, because my family didn't move. We were waiting to move to the spring, but again, family-wise, I think my son was like 13, other daughter was 9, and my wife and I were at a crossroads, like, should we just stay here, let them finish school, or move to New York? And then we just were like, let's just stay here and hit the reset button, like for me, and figure out what would be next professionally. So
what would you do?
That I came home. That was the first time though, because the separation from my family, I commuted a large part of the year from Hadley, Massachusetts to New Rochelle, New York. And I'd have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to beat traffic to be there, for like 7:30. And it was the first time I got up. The first time I got up in 20 years. I guess I was pretty lucky because I was saying, what am I doing? Like, I can't, there's no way I could do this. So, I was there and actually like trying to figure out what to do next, and then coached at my kid's local high school, and I did that for 3 years and loved it.
Right. So eventually we work our way to Flatbush.
Okay.
So now you're in the Yeshivah League. So on my two producers here, the one host, Oren, and these guys are Yeshiva League junkies. So what you are about to tell them is going to jack them up so much, They're going to be in my ear about it for a decade. Okay. Tell them your experience this first year, which, by the way, let me just say this. I'm going to try to say this as nice as I can. Adam, what you did this year at Flatbush was ridiculously good. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Like, nothing else makes sense to me after watching your team play. Nothing from the last day you played, I think it was Frisch, till today, nothing's made sense to me. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. I don't want, whatever. Let's leave it there. But explain to them your Yeshivah League experience. And then we'll get into the weeds a little bit on some of these things from your past.
Well, first, I grew up in Long Island in New York, and respectfully, I didn't know about the Yeshivah League, and then even coming in, I knew zero. And I remember the first day at tryouts, we had 48 kids show up, and immediately, I sensed something completely different because the kids had so much passion and enthusiasm and energy and just grit. And I had been around college athletes and saw their approach to things, but in terms of just the love and passion that these guys had for representing their yeshiva, and in particular Flatbush, blew me away. And I'm getting chills now just remembering that first interaction. And I said, oh, okay, this could really be something. This could really be fun. And then initially I was kind of told, hey, practice when you want. It's that kind of made it was laid back a little bit. And then we got invited to the Mag and David, preseason tournament. And I walk in and I'm like, this does not look like this is recreation to me. People are taking this serious. We have a lot of work to do, because if we get beat, that's fine, but we're not going to get beat because we're not prepared. And that to me was very eye-opening. And we kicked it into overdrive, where I was calling the JV coach saying, you got to change practice. I got to go. We were practicing 4 or 5 times a week, and just trying to, maximize the time we could get. And then I also didn't know the framework, right? So these kids go to school together from 7:30 in the morning to 5:15 from when they're 7 years old all the way up through high school. And then they're all used to watching their friends play at their grade level, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. So their expectation is when they show up, they're going to see their friends play. So I didn't understand this. So when kids would come up to me in the hallway, at Flatbush, and say, how come this kid didn't play? Why didn't you play? I was like, wait a second, what's going on here? But it came from a place of love, because they wanted to see their friends play. And once I started to figure, it just, honestly, for me, it was the most meaningful coaching experience I've ever had, because of how much these kids cared and how much they gave of themselves, and the relationships that they had with each other, and the sacrifices. Once they understood that I was going to be consistent, the sacrifices of playing time, of whatever was needed for the team that these kids did was phenomenal. But then the competition and the coaching in the Yeshivah League blew me away also. People took it really serious. I thought the coaches really knew what they were doing. And it was a very competitive, challenging, fun experience.
So let's go. This is exactly what I'm talking about, and that's what I'm going to hear from Lauren Glickman and Poppers forever now. So thanks for ruining my day. But let's go back. Let's do this. Who is? You could have a few of them. Who's your biggest influence in basketball, and who shaped your philosophy? You may have different coaches. My defense philosophy really shaped by this guy. My offense really shaped by this guy. My practice planning shaped by, do you have that guy or guys?
I'm kind of like a basketball mutt, right? Because I've been in all different things, and I think I pulled different things from everybody while as I've matured, figuring out who I am and how to apply all those things, because that was most important. Like, I think initially, like, I'm at Florida as a grad assistant, and the next time I got to coach, you're trying to just do everything that you saw Billy Donovan do, but you're doing it like in his voice or in how he said it, and it's not you, right? But some of what you're doing makes sense, but it's not really you, because that's not where it is. But in terms of like the shaping of stuff philosophically, first I would say is probably like my dad, because he was a school teacher and he coached all my little league baseball teams. And I remember we would always practice more than everybody else, and all my friends would be asking him different baseball questions, and just him building that type of camaraderie amongst my friends and team drew me in to want to coach. I just fell in love with basketball. But I would say, for me, I took a lot of stuff from Tim Maloney, who I mentioned before, a lot from Vance Wahlberg, who was the inventor. We worked together 3 years at UMass. A lot from Frank, a lot from Travis. Travis was phenomenal in scouting. Really, really like pushed me as an assistant to like, if a team ran 45 plays, Travis wanted you to know all 45. And he would like quiz you on it. So I took that as a challenge where I was like, I'm going to know all 45.
Was that a Patino thing?
Travis was never an assistant coach, but I think a lot of it was influenced by his playing days. Travis's dad was a coach, but a lot of it was influenced by his playing days, and he would probably go watch Coach Patino's practices when he was at Eastern Kentucky, because Louisville was right up the road, and I'm sure he saw a lot of that. But Travis was maniacal there.
Let's go through that, Adam. Stop right there, and we'll continue. Let's go through that for a second. Just give people some idea. What's practice like when you got to write all them plays down first of all, is every player getting that scouting report on every play, or are you just giving them, here's the 5 things they like to do, the 5 plays they like to run, and Travis just has all of them?
No, my first year, he would want us to give a scouting report with all the plays in them. I don't know if culturally he was just trying to
preparation the ticket.
In that regard, because then year 2 and year 3 we didn't do it as extensive, but he wanted full scouting reports handed to them.
How many pages is that, Adam? So these 2 guys here and everybody else knows.
I mean, it could be 15 to 45 pages, depending on how much he wanted you to throw in there, and sometimes he'd want you to throw in a newspaper article that said some comment or whatever it was. I remember like we had beat Temple at home, and they had said they were going to get us back from a player, and he had our operations assistant make 350 copies of the quote and put it on the road in the locker room, hung up everywhere. Yeah. They beat us by 30 points that night, and before we got back to the locker room, it was like, all those papers better be down.
Wait, just out of curiosity, was that the exact quote? All those papers better be down, or are there some adjectives involved in that?
Yeah, there was a little bit more there. Yeah, there's
a couple of action verbs. Hold on.
Yeah.
So you're saying anywhere between 15 and 45. So let me say this in the best way possible. Screw you, poppers. Okay. So he's maniacal about that. All right. So go ahead. So Travis was scouting. Was he, because of how you cut your teeth in the film room on videotape as opposed to nowadays where everything's digital and it's much easier, were you a film guy back then? Like,
I was definitely.
I don't mean like an Eric Spoelstra film guy. I mean like you love breaking down tape, or you tape them and get rid of them and I don't want to see them again. You know what I mean?
It got me. I remember when I first worked at Towson. Okay, I had the first scouting report I had was VHS to VHS, and again I'm 20.
I remember when you were there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 24 years old. I'm all excited, but I don't know what I'm doing. So the first half of the first game I'm watching for my first scout takes me 6 hours because I keep rewinding, because I'm like, I got to get this right. And then, we go into practice. I'm trying to get it, and I don't have the play right that Jazz wanted to run. But he was like, no, it's this, that, the, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, how did you know that? I went to him after practice. He was like, Coach Ham said, if you can't, recite it, like without looking at your notes, then you don't know the plays. So right. He wasn't saying it negatively towards me.
Yeah.
Teaching it, and I was like, to myself, I said, I'm never going to have that happen again. I'm going to know all the plays. So then I would get maniacal about it. And as you get better at it, it took less time, but I would write, I would name whatever the action was. Like I'd have a beginning for me, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's how I would name the play. So it would be like, Horns, UCLA, screen to screener. And then I knew in my mind, okay, when I introduce you to the team, that's what it's going to be. So I'm sharp, but I would do that, across the board. And it just became like my routine. But Harold, I shifted over, like fast forward to when I worked for Derek, my last 5 years, like he tasked me with all, pre-practice video, all post-game video breakdowns. And then I would do every day after practice, I would watch practice and I'd find at least 1 or 2 clips for every player. And while they're getting taped before practice, I'm walking around with a laptop. I'm saying, hey, Putt, remember on this play? And then, like what you were talking about at practice, I could talk to our players because they knew that I spent the time, and they knew when they looked at me, he's going to help me. Like he can help me. And then during a game, when it gets all emotionally charged, I can communicate calmly and they know he's going to know what I'm saying. I've had multiple times, it was rewarding for me, where a player would, when guys get offensive rebounds and they're facing away from the basket and they shoot up a stupid shot and you lose the possession. Well, we had a great rebounder, Cat in the lane. He would always do that. And I remember in the hotel, I'm showing him like 5 straight clips of him doing that the next game. Like the next day, he gets a couple rebounds and he's this way. You can see that he wants to go up, but he stops himself and kicks it out and we hit a 3. And it's like, those are the video, those are possessions that you get that help you win the game. And so I go ahead.
So I'm saying, so Travis was perfect for you because you.
Well, I had not had a work like that in scouting earlier on in my, like Jazz was like on top of it. So if you messed up, he was fine. Travis was like, you better not mess up.
I'm trusting.
Yeah, you're gonna have a problem with me if you mess up. And so I received that and I was like, I'm not gonna mess up.
Did you get guys like Frank saying, hey Adam, I think you got this right, or I think you got this wrong, I think they're doing this, or I think they're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I gave off was loyalty, like you talked about, enthusiasm, complete commitment to what was needed for the team. And I think when you come off that way, even if you make a mistake, people know you've put the work in, so they want to like help you get to the right end. And so but I was very, very hard on myself because I also viewed myself some of that like imposter syndrome. Okay, I didn't play in college. I was a team manager.
Sure.
I'm 5'10", I gotta be better than everybody else if I'm going to survive it.
That's a Lawrence Frank thing.
Yeah,
who was manager at Indiana. So like that, I think the most important thing in coaching, besides loyalty, but the most important thing is you're a teacher. So you got to be able to teach, and if you can transfer the information to your player, you are from jump 50 to 60% ahead of all your colleagues who can't do that. Like they can tell you, I played the game, I did this, I did, and there's credibility there. But if they can't transfer that information to the player, it doesn't do you any good. You got to know how to teach too. So it helps that A, your dad's a teacher, B, that you went through all these stops with some terrific teacher. Coach Tom is a terrific teacher. You know, Travis is a great teacher. Was Derek a great teacher?
Derek was phenomenal at understanding how to build a program and run his program like a business, and his prowess recruiting, his detail in recruit, like he knew the business side of recruiting. He was so sharp. Like he understood how to communicate with people. Like the first day he got there, he was like, so what's the route you guys take on unofficial visits? Like where do you take people? Do you guys take them out on like Derek went to UMass, so he knew. Do you guys walk by the library and the pond when classes break? He's like, when he was great, but he was like, do you take this route? And that helped. Like with Derek could never understand why our guys like wouldn't understand to be in the right spots or the timing on stuff. And then like there was an alumni game and Derek played in the alumni game, right? And I'm watching Derek's anticipation as a player. And I'm like, that's it. Now I know why he's frustrated, because he's like, how can't they see what I see?
It's why guys like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, you know, there's few guys at the level of Larry Bird or Isaiah Thomas that had the success of those guys, if you know what I mean. Like because most guys can't understand why you can't see what they see. Magic couldn't understand how they couldn't see that passing lane. He couldn't understand how they couldn't see that ball reverse, right? I mean, that's what I mean by teaching. You have to be able to bring yourself down, and that is a frustration for great players sometimes, is that they can't necessarily, you know, find the avenue that I could read because it's bothering me. That how could you not see that? How could you not? It's so simple. It's simple to you, Coach. You're one of the 10 players that ever played basketball. It's not simple to me. You know, I'm just a kid. I'm trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? So, and I think that like people don't get it. So, but by the time Derek's here, you're now working on movie systems. You know what I mean? Right. And now you have satellites. Now you're digitized.
And like my last 5 years with Derek, he provided me so much opportunity to apply the first 15 years of my coaching, like observation and filling in. He permitted and encouraged me to become a featured teacher and coach. So he involved me in every practice. He gave me freedom to incorporate anything that I thought fit, but I also understood this is my lane. Right. You know, that's his lane. I need to support that. But he really, he gave me a chance to go. Like, you know, like when you would let a player like go, like he was like, go coach. Like I trust you, like go. And that gave me great opportunity and great confidence that this is.
So did he let you interrupt, like in the middle of practice, and you see something? And
that was there. Derek was always cool with that, but then he would say, "Okay, Adam, take 15 minutes on offensive breakdown. Like go, grab."
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, but I think that's how you become a better coach, is because your boss lets you do that. Boss. And I'm sure there are days where he looks at you and goes, Adam, shut up. Right? Yeah. I don't want to hear it, Adam. We can't get a damn rebound, and you talking about this ball screen, or you're talking about some 38.75 degree screen we're going to set on a baseline. Get an effing rebound, right? I mean, right? Like, you know, that's what happens. I remember I was at Goucher College. I got to have Leonard on. I was at Goucher College, and, you know, Coach he got so mad at me. He goes, "This ain't the JCC." Like, he's screaming at you, like, "This ain't the JCC. We're playing college basketball." You know, of course, the JCC, of course, had extra adjectives too. So, but I mean, that, like, people don't get, and here's the thing. If you have thin skin, basketball, post-game, pre-game meetings, they're just not for you. because everybody's amped up, especially after losing. And coaches are going to say some things to you that you're going to be like, damn. Am I wrong about that?
No.
They just say stuff and you're just kind of going, all right, coach. Like, or you just walk out the office, let's talk tomorrow. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's a great point. This guy who used to coach in college named Andrew Theokas, he ended up going into private business. He told me, because when I was transitioning from college coaching all those years to looking at other jobs, he was like, you don't understand. In coaching, you'll get told to your face in the moment, you stink, you don't know what you're doing. Like that's not how job evaluation, that's not how job performance is graded. There's a whole, like the fact that you've been through all that, this is going to be easy for you if you're out of coaching.
Yeah, right. So I mean, like
it's just,
he looks at your stuff. This is a scouting report that we just used. This is crap. Yeah. We couldn't stop a cold. Or we couldn't stop an ethical, like that. Like, and of course, you could play like crap, and if you win the game, boy, we did a hell of a job those last 2 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like the guys really, like me, I get mad about the first 38. Like, well, we just got lucky we won, right? But like you had to work for guys like this. Once you win the game, it's like, all right, we'll fix it. But I mean, if you people don't get it. If you go through some kind of extended losing streak, I mean, by two game losing streak, the worst place you want to be is alone with your boss. It's like the last place you want to do paperwork, you want to watch film. The last thing you want to do is to give him an opportunity to tee you up and lay you out, or then start talking about all the kids you recruited, and then just go like, "We brought that piece of crap in here."
No, that's what you're saying. Coach, I heard of a 7 footer.
That's right. That's right. Coach, I know you want to go watch Connecticut tomorrow night, but you got to come with me and watch this kid. It could be total horse crap, and but you got to get him in the mood of like, hey, we're trying to get better. Coach, he was better when I saw him. Like Coach Adam, you think this kid can play this? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like it's. I love coaching. And I loved being an assistant, honestly. And I even love that, whatever the hell you're doing, we got to stop it. Like we stink. This guy can't guard crap. This guy can't shoot. This guy has no handle. How are we playing this guy? I mean, like, it's not my decision, coach. You played him. I know, but you goddamn recruited him. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you get that. So like people kind of have really no idea of what you have to go through. So did you ever get an offer to be a head coach somewhere in college?
No, I had gotten 2 different interview opportunities, but both of them, after going through it, were like political to say they did it because like a booster from UMass knew somebody somewhere that said, hey, you should talk to this guy. And it was like a courtesy type at the Division I courtesy type. Right. But that was also big for me. Like I got really good at being an assistant coach at UMass. Like I was there for that length of time because I was really committed to what we were doing at UMass, right? But didn't work on some things. Like you have to work on your personal brand and you have to work on putting yourself out there. Like when
you got to work a lot.
We're done with this. Like I wanted to see my family and spend time. I didn't want to have to travel to different.
You didn't want to work. You didn't want to work the lobby. You didn't want to work the lobby.
No, but it's a business and you have to align yourself appropriately. Otherwise, you're gonna get passed by. And then I just remember like I was sitting at Oklahoma City Thunder. They had a development workshop and they had brought in mostly like 25, 26-year-old grad assistants. That's who they were targeting. But Mark Dagnott, who was there at Oklahoma City, was like, why don't you, I can get you down here. This would be good for you while we had just lost our jobs at UMass. So It was like a chance for me to go down there. And I remember the GM from Oklahoma City was talking, Sam Presti. He's like, we intentionally wanted to have young people here so we can have fresh ideas because people that are like 40 years old, they're kind of set in their ways. And I was like, oh my God.
That's me.
That's me. he's talking about me. How did I get here? But you need, I heard Kevin Eastman say this, because a lot of times people are like, well, my boss needs to help me, or my coach needs to help me. No, like, you need to help yourself.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your own
Adam, I call coaches up. I mean, that's the whole reason I had a relationship with Coach Noah. I just called him on the phone. I mean, I found his number and I called him on the phone. I actually got it from somebody and called him on the phone. And it's some of my prized possessions, probably sitting right here, actually. Like, hold on. Some of my prized possessions are phone conversations with Pete Newell that I really don't share with a lot of people. But they're hours long, and I wanted to remember the conversations because, back then, you put it on your suction cup. It's like a suction cup thing you put on a phone and you put it in your tape recorder, It was so important to me. Yeah. Like I just like one of my, I'd love to have on a show. I'm going to have to reach out to him. I was once watching, I had a satellite, so I was watching Northeast Louisiana State, and they were running our zone offense, and I'd never seen anybody do it. I just called them up, and we became great friends. And every time I went to the Final Four, I stayed in his room. And it was just like we just, of course, well, I'll save some of it if and when he comes on the show, because let's just say he's from Louisiana, I'm a Jew. So just, there's all that stuff going on. But he was phenomenal and a great basketball coach. And I loved picking his mind. This is something he once said to me, and as somebody who worked for some guys like this, he said to me, if you're going to press now, like all day, you got to commit to doing it. And you're going to have times in your game where it's 28-26 kind of run, but you're going to catch 2 runs when you press the whole night. Those 2 runs cannot be 10-8. Those 2 runs got to be 12-2. That's how, because you're going to give up buckets. That's just, you have to deal with that. And if you're a defensive guy, like I love getting stops. And if that's you're going to give up a lot of points if you're going to play at this pace, and some of them are going to be gimmies at the rim that are going to drive you crazy. So, but if you're really good at it, you should get these 2 runs that are going to blow the game open. And he taught me that, and he was so right, because the days where I'd be really frustrated with the press and I'd get out of the press, we'd end up struggling. Whether we lose, it'd just be a struggle, And I would talk to myself when I said, I got to get out of this. But if I get out of this, I'm never going to catch the run. You know what I mean? So he's just such a great guy. So that's kind of the thing about helping yourself. I would just call guys out of the blue. I just call them, and as you know, just question them, right? Just say, the thing with Kevin, I didn't agree with everything he had to say. So I'm just kind of like, well, why did you ever think about doing it this way? Of course, you get the whole, well, we got to have players and, that whole story. But I think that's how you learn. That's how you become somebody like you. So, everybody, before we get to the thing about being an AD, everybody, well, he's a college coach, and some guy might spend 2 days at the community college level and coaching, you're playing games and there's a track around the bar. You've been in community colleges where BC, a Dundalk or something, and there's a game going on and there's a track meet going on around the game. You know what I mean? And then there's some guys like you who've been doing it for decades, and what you bring to the table in regards to basketball is a lifetime worth of knowledge. Think about when you first started to what you are now. What would you tell yourself when you first started? Do it the same way?
You get better as you go. I think, I'm overall the same person that I was walking through Towson, that I was walking through Flatbush. You just have, at that point, maybe you've been through 4,000 college practices and 1,500 games, and you just have all that as a reference point. But you still gotta. That's the great thing. Like there's so much learning you do when you coach each day, let alone each season. Like it's constantly changing and constantly evolving, and that excitement of having to change and tweak things from day to day is very stimulating for me. Yeah. And just and as you get to know the people you're around, and then putting them in places that's best for them, and trying to like mesh it all together, that's always been that's been intriguing, challenging, and fun for me.
Were all the practice planning, you worked for this guy, that guy, that guy. Were all the practice plans similar, or in other words, 8 o'clock to 8:05, or 8:15 to 8:35, like, or is it, or was each guy have his own kind of thing, or they all had the same kind of look?
Each had their own thing, but what I got very lucky was Tim Cohane at Buffalo, when I was a student manager, from 18-year-olds to 22-year-olds, he took Bobby Knight's practice template.
Oh, it's the best.
And it was, it was always defensive breakdown, then offensive breakdown, but the template was the same. And he would just
to this day,
change different drills. But in a 2-hour practice, for other people that I would work for would take them 8 hours of practice, he would get done in 2 hours. And so I learned right then just the decision making and pace of going from drill to drill, and being able to call out bam, 4-star.
That's right.
And the 1 or 2 word commands, and watching people jump from spot to spot. He was always saying those little decisions that we have to communicate through get us extra possessions in games.
Exactly. And what people don't know is when you practice, I hate being at practice and watching kids walk drill to drill. You're just wasting time. Like, and not only that, but when I was a young coach, I used to just, if you can believe it, I would talk forever on a correction. I know it's hard to believe, but I learned, I filmed myself, and I'm sitting here going, man, I can't stand watching me. Like, you're talking so damn much. Just get to the point and get the hell out. And it was one of these, I make my point in 10 seconds and we're moving on. That's a piece of practice, because basketball is the only sport that has instant conversion for everybody. The goalie never leaves the goal.
Yep.
Right? Soccer, lacrosse, the defenseman never cross, right? I mean, baseball, not everybody, right? This is instant conversion on every play. Coach taught me that. And that template, that kind of, we got things to do now, let's go right now. And then that's basketball. Mm-hmm. That's how you play. You don't play like, yeah, we're walking from drill to drill, like that. And that template of, to this day, unless I want to totally change things up, I'm defense first, and our entire defense is done every day about defense. Where, like you say, it might take some guy eight hours to do that. So when you're at Flatbush, that's what you're doing, right? And when you were coaching in high school in Massachusetts, that's what you were doing, that kind of pace of practice. Right.
But what's funny, though, is if I got the kids from Hopkins Academy together with the kids from Flatbush, and I had each of them, I said, just run one of our practices, they would look completely different stylistically, because at Hopkins, I played all zone, all junk, and we just spent time on offense. And at Flatbush, we really guarded man to man, didn't do anything else. But the one thing that would be consistent is, I think, relationally amongst each other, they would understand, like, they have a bond, because that's something that's really important. And
sure.
then the connection and the relationships that would be consistent from coach to player would be there. But right. Stylistically, it was completely different, like completely. Wow. And you played a huge role in the decision making of us being committed to play man to man. because
you're welcome to share it, so I don't catch crap from these two guys. Bother me about it.
When we spoke before the season started, the first you said, "Hey, congrats! Hey, you're going to play man, aren't you?" And I said, "So why?" And he's like, "I'm just telling you, that league they play all zone and stuff. Like when you're different and you play man the way you're supposed to play it, it's going to really mess some people up if you'll do it." And then once you said that, I remember I was on the subway and I was like, "All right, that's it. We're playing man." And there were some days where it felt very challenging, like we weren't going to get it. And I was like, Harold said it's going to work, so I believe, and I'm going to double down and stay.
You're in the semifinals, and you started a freshman in a league that never starts sophomores. So
no, they were. This was a special, fun group of.
Did you ever think at any point during this season that you were going to play? Once you started and you guys got it, you said, "Boy, we better go to zone right here."
The only time, and we did it for a possession or two, was at Mag and David. They had pummeled us at our place. I remember they were phenomenal. I didn't have our guys prepared, and I said after that, like, that's not going to happen again. And we were in that particular game. They have the big kid, and I was like, I think I might have to play zone. So we were sprinkling it in here and there, but we played one possession on it and got away with it. And they just happened to miss a shot, and then that was it. But I just thought it would be a change of pace, just to do it. But
right. Adam, it's interesting you said the thing about your two teams, because I think I might have told this story before. I don't remember if I did on a podcast, but I had a player who was he's a mechanical engineer. He's an elucidator. He translates the Talmud for Art Scroll, whatever. And I saw him on a Sunday morning when we were practicing, and he played for me in 1992. And this is 2020, 21. Mm-hmm. He's got kids, graduated high school, and we're running our offense and our defense. His name was Yoav, and I'm like, "Yo, do you want to get in here? Like, just give some." I mean, it was like he was playing for me yesterday. Mm-hmm. Of that camaraderie and that, but it's the same ideas and the same concept. And even though we're doing things a little differently, it was flawless for him because he played for the same guy, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. So that brings me pure joy. I had a player today come over to me about something he wants to do in the future after he graduates college, and I happen to have a player who played with Tamir, who is a stud physical therapist who's living in Israel, and it's I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning in Israel, or maybe 12. And I said, Adam, Danny, are you available to talk? He said, "Yeah, just call me." And I had the kid, I had him talk. They both had the one common enemy in common. But it was so great for me to know that you can reach out to a player after all these years, and that player will help your current player. And then that player can watch your team play like Danny did and just go, "Wow, I remember that. Or we do something and I say something and I'll get, somebody's watching us play and I'll rip a kid or something and say, and I'll get a player from 25 years ago text me and go, "You said that same crap to me too." Like, I remember hey, throw it to the guys in white, you still saying that stupidity? Yeah, I am. I mean, it's not, basketball's not complicated. We complicate it. Right. Winning and losing is not complicated. Well, I mean, losing is extremely complicated, but winning is not complicated. Here's what we do. Let's just do it. I'll invite you to pray. I've said this before. I invite guys to pray. Come watch this team. Come watch us play. I don't care. We're still going to play you Tuesday. Come on. I've done it plenty of times. And coaches have taken me up on it, thinking they're going to get some great scout work out of it. I don't care. We're still going to beat you. In other words, we're either going to execute or we're not, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of my take. So what are your you have nothing to do with basketball now at Flatbush, right?
Yeah, I mean, the more that I'm doing this, the more I get really excited. I think the way the Flatbush leadership has collected an athletics leadership team is going to be really good. Like Matt Malk is going to be leading the basketball program, coaching the team, and our head of basketball is a guy, Morris Dweck, who is a phenomenal guy. He played at Flatbush.
I know he is.
He's just top notch, all the way around. And I think Matt is going to do a phenomenal job. I think he totally gets it and comes in at a time for me being in the building, knowing exactly what those kids are looking for in terms of how to create excitement and promote the program, outfit the program, appropriately. And then I just think it is going to do a great job. And then I'm tasked with overseeing the other sports. And after having been in the building and really getting to know the student population and what they're looking for, how passionate they are, and to just kind of fan the flames of that passion and get it moving in the right direction. I'm really, really excited for and just getting to. There's a lot of our coaches at Flatbush who attended Flatbush, who are recently graduated, who are young, who are so passionate about Flatbush, want to give back to the Flatbush community that it's fun for me to get to know more people and really be a part of it. And then I really think to interact and have a positive impact, and then also knowing what it's like to coach at Flatbush, I think helps me support them better. So I think the whole configuration of this is going to be really, really good for the student population at Flatbush.
You have to teach You have to teach any classes?
No, I'll be done with that for next year. I'm finishing up this year. But
I'll give you a piece of advice. Travel in New York, you got to put extra time in. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Baltimore, you got to deal with the Beltway between, between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. You got to deal with the Beltway. In New York, first of all, any time of the day can be. It's either construction or rubbernecking. That's all. There's either accident on your side, accident on the other side. Everybody's looking at it, or it's just construction. But it can happen anywhere at any time in Beckham. So you have to really build in travel time. Whereas if you're playing, say, I'll say it to you because if you're in Pikesville and you're playing at Towson and it's a normal 10, 15-minute drive, you got to make that thing at rush hour 40 minutes. In New York, you got to make that an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah. That's my AD advice to you. Be. All right, hold on now. Before I'm gonna set these two loose on you here, Adam.
Okay.
I'm sure they're chomping at the bait a bit, especially Oren. But I'll get back to you. Oren, you got something?
Well, first off, this was really a conversation I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I don't want it to end. I know we'll have to end at some point. It's been really fascinating to hear your whole life story and your background and how everything. I guess my question would be, your background is mainly basketball, but you'll be the athletic director for all athletic programs at Flatbush. Obviously, I'm no stranger to the Yeshivah League. Basketball is the biggest thing. But what are your plans for the other sports that Flatbush offer and how to maximize, investment and for people to really care about those sports the same way people care about basketball?
Yeah, I think we've got a large population of our student body playing other sports. Like we have 80 students that play hockey, and so there's a ton of passion around the whole hockey program. There's a ton of we have 65 kids that play football, like the flag football league. So I think my real role here is to kind of do a deep dive in all these other programs, because basketball is really an entity of its own, and it's really been focused on at a much higher level. This permits me a chance to really get in there, find out what we need, how to help support that, and what we can do better. So it's really in the infancy stages right now of where it could go. The good thing is the upper leadership is really in support of athletics growing. So they really, really want to see this be successful. And the sports that have larger populations, we're going to try to dive in there first, figure out what they need. Like I was talking with our hockey, some of our hockey program coaches today. They have a greater emphasis on wanting to upgrade our live stream opportunities there. They want to do some more, have our students broadcast the games. We really want to brand ourselves better. There's so many positive things happening at Flatbush, and we want to make sure that all of them are covered. So I just think we're trying to build a larger brand. And obviously the overarching experience is for our kids to have the best possible experience they have. So they want to come back. And I think that's already happening in that we have so many kids that have played athletics coming back to coach at Flatbush. So I just think it's kind of trying to bridge the relationships that have already begun for me at Flatbush and fan the flames of the enthusiasm and passion, and then channel it in the right spot. So we're targeting a couple different things at a time so we can improve.
Pop, you got something?
No, nothing specific. It was very enjoyable though to listen. And
I'll take Pop. I'll take the question for Pop then, if you want.
Take the question. Yeah, Oren, go ahead. Have at it.
Yeah. I guess my last question would be.
Go ahead, Oren. As long as we get the hell out of the Yeshivah League for a minute. Go ahead.
It was related, so I guess I'm out of time.
By the way, Oren, before you ask this question, we got to pimp the Yeshivah League Pass.
That's a good call, Coach. Thanks as ever for Yeshiva League Pass for plugging in this podcast. We sincerely appreciate it. Subscribe to Yeshiva League Pass on Instagram, YouTube. My second question is going to be.
Whoa! No, forget your second question. Subscribe to the podcast. What are you talking about?
Oh, and subscribe to the Harold Katz podcast.
You're fired, dude. You're fired. All right, go ahead. Second question.
Sorry, Coach. Long day. My second question, as Coach mentioned, I am a Yeshiva League savant. Flatbush has a rich and storied history, and it's been interesting for me to see the social media posts about the new Flatbush basketball program in general. What are you guys trying to change about the program that you feel, or maybe the administration feels, didn't exist before?
Before, I've only been here a year, but I know before I joined, the varsity boys basketball coach, Mike Gurak, is also a teacher in the building, has a ton of different responsibilities. And I think the past model was teach full time in the building, and then you're a coach after. And I think the upper administration sees, okay, we have 150 students that play basketball, so we want to really hire a full-time person that their role is strictly basketball, which is what Matt and Morris are going to be doing. So those 150 kids can have the best possible experience. So I just think just targeting staff to focus solely on that in a full-time capacity is a major adjustment. And we're already reaping the rewards, because I think Matt has met with every grade level. We had a meet the athletics leadership team with parents, a meet and greet. There's already a lot more things happening. Matt and Morris have put together, a summer program opportunity for our students. And there's like so much action happening, and you could really only do that if you had people working in a full-time capacity. So I just, again, I know I went a little long-winded, but essentially just having full-time staff dedicated solely to basketball and the program's development.
Yeah. No, over to you, Coach.
Adam, you've basically given us 90 minutes of your time, which is yeoman's work, and I appreciate you doing it. Because you and I know we could get into weeds on basketball for hours. I just think, the little things about, you know what? Before I say go, let me ask you this question. So you've been at the high major level, you've been at the mid major level, and you've been at the low major level, and you've been in high school basketball. Two things. Let's take this one first. Well, I'll ask you both of them. What changes for the better have you seen in basketball, and what changes that maybe were not as intelligent? Everybody gets to see you walk on the floor at the NCAA tournament, at the NIT. You're going in these big arenas, walking on the floor. You said before that it's just as exciting to go to Flatbush. You know what I mean, from a coaching standpoint. So, is there anything you miss at the Division I level? And is that being satisfied? Was that satisfied at the coaching level of Flatbush, or even at your high school in Massachusetts? Or, and do you have a preference? Like, would you rather coach now in high school, or would you rather go back and I mean, obviously you're coaching here, but do you miss it enough to kind of kick this away, if you know what I mean?
I think after having had everything shake out the way it did, like my last 3 or 4 years in college coaching, because we didn't talk about, my family and I moved here to New Jersey, but I was working at NYU at the time, and under the impression I was going to be there for some time, and I did not know one of my best friends was having issues with the administration, and then they made a coaching change. So there's a lot to unpack with what the question was, but essentially, I got a lot of really good experiences early professionally, and I think I think my identity was shaped through my jobs, and when that ended, like, I was lost for a little period of time because I was so committed to the career, and now I kind of had to go through that where I understand, okay, this is my family needs to be the priority. Right. And I think working at the high school level permits you to do that, so I don't, time for me is really, really important. Having time and having the respect level to be able to have some flexibility in hours, so you can do things with your family matter to me, so I think I evolved. I think at one point I would, I just thought you had to work nonstop. And now I've realized, okay, that's not what's supposed to happen. So essentially, I think I'm like exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I do think this segue for me, like professionally, to go from coaching into administration, essentially from the, director of athletics position is a great segue for me at this time, where I can try to support the coaches, but then also, administratively, like, pick up some things, which I, is very intriguing for me to interact with different people throughout Flatbush and figure out how to get everybody on the same page and using the platform. Because the director of athletics position, like at Flatbush, it's the Yeshivah's job. Like, I'm just in it and I'm trying to shape it so Yeshiva gets the most out of it. But like, for me, this is a really exciting time for all of it. And moving into a brand new gym and just the enthusiasm that the kids have, is really good. So I love where I'm at right now.
Adam, to give people, I try to give them an idea, but when I always tell kids, college basketball is a job. for that kid, whether you're at the Division III level at NYU or you're at Division I level at UMass or Florida or whatever. It's a job. If you don't want to, if you don't approach it that way, you won't have success that way. In other words, it's all encompassing. As a coach, if you land on Tuesday and you're on the road on Thursday, or right, I mean it's all for October, November, December, January, February, March, maybe one more month. So maybe for 6 or 7 months, it is an all-encompassing every single moment of every single day. Your boss, as an assistant, is on your ass. You know, make sure we're this or make sure we're that. Or and your job is riding on an 18-year-old kid. And that's the bottom line. Is your job is riding on an 18-year-old, either coming to your place or not. Like that, it's all. It goes directly to the point you just made about your family, how important that is. Like, am I not right in telling people, like it tears you up, and it takes all the real estate in your brain for the most part during those 6-7 months. Fair?
I'd say even more. I think like May and June.
Well, that's recruiting period. Yeah.
No, May and June. Now they change where you have some evaluation time, but you could typically like
Relax.
shut a little bit then and get family time. But outside of that, like you hit July, you're traveling. August, you're like getting prepared for everybody coming back, and
Right.
it's just a cycle that if you get behind, you can't catch up, and
Right.
and the pressure associated with that is real. Because you're either like getting a new contract, losing a new contract, or chasing a new, like it's just a constant.
You're fired to be hired. Yeah, you're hired to be fired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that, like, it's great to have, we've had head coaches and everything, but it's great to have somebody who's actually been a long-time college assistant at the highest level and has now kind of been a basketball coach in a high school level as a head coach. So your perspective is extraordinary, and I think it's very informative and intelligent, and it kind of gets into the nuts and bolts of what we try to do on this podcast, not just like fandom. I want to know about tape exchange. I want to know about your meetings in the office when you get beat by 30. I want to know the kind of, like so-and-so is not the pimple on the ass of a basketball player. You know what I mean? Like, you get that. Mm-hmm. People don't understand that. Like, every coach, I want to say they love every kid, but they love their kids. I mean, they're with them every day. And the ones that don't usually make it in that program. But just like any family, when you get mad at your own children, I mean, you're just going to get mad. You coach them up. Like we had Coach Davenport from Bellarmine up here, Bellarmine. Poppers always corrects me. And he said, I'm gonna coach you up. I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for you. Right? There's a lot of Frank Martin. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of Frank, right? I mean, that, like, some guy, I'm a screamer. That's just what I am. You're not necessarily a screamer, so a little different like that. But there's different ways to skin the cat, and I'm really glad that you came on here and brought your perspective, which is totally different than, say, Coach Davenport was also an assistant, but we really talked about more of his program per se, and we've had other high school coaches or whatever. But your perspective is significant and kind of broadens what we do here a lot, where we can build on it and maybe even have you on again and we can kind of talk more. Because I think, honestly, there's so much more that we could have gotten into, but it was great to have you. I'm so glad you agreed to come on. And I think those people think, well, it's just a Flatbush guy. It's not. You're a college basketball coach and have been for decades. So to me, it was more about, we'll do this a different time. The thing about the game changer, think about that, and maybe we'll call you in. We got this one more question because the last 90 minutes we didn't finish. So, but I want to let you go. And I can't thank you enough for doing this. It's a great thrill for me because we go back a long time. And I'm happy that we've been able to keep our relationship alive.
I just want to say too, like a lot of people, it's been like well documented and like broadcasted, but to see yours and Tamir's relationship when he was a player at that time with everything that was going on and how you let him be himself, but also appropriately keep away things that needed to stay out. You weren't just to watch that unfold and then now see the relationship be stronger now than it was then, is awesome for me to see. And it's always been a huge source of pride for me. So I love being able to do stuff with you. And I'm excited that actually getting back into the yeshiva or getting into the yeshiva league has enabled our relationship to rekindle. So,
I've always been a big fan of yours. I love what you did this year, and you know what I think, so I'm going to leave it at that. But you're a great basketball coach, and that's, more than anything else, you're the same person you were when you were 21 or 22, and that's the best.
I'm a little more mature.
We can always hope, Adam.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying you're the same person. It's the same person I met. And you're like, well, you got film of this guy? But you're the same person, you're the same. That's the best part about what I've seen with you is you're just the same person that you were back then and just a terrific basketball coach. And I'm a big fan of yours. And one day maybe we'll get to beat each other up on the basketball floor, but my clock's ticking. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, thanks for coming. It was awesome. Right. It was so great to have you, Adam. I apologize to your wife for me.
Okay, we'll see you. All right.
Thanks so much. Good to meet you.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
Gentlemen, that's the basketball coach right there, fellas.
Coach, that was amazing. If people didn't know who Adam Ginsburg was, now they know who Adam Ginsburg is.
That's right.
I think that's a total win for the Yeshiva Flatbush athletics program.
Well, more than that, to have quality coaches like that coach your children, that to me is the most important thing. So a man of great integrity, of great honesty, of great acumen in his job, a wonderful disposition, always open to listen in, has his ways and not afraid to use some other ideas. He's just a great basketball coach. He was a great basketball coach, last year, and he's a great basketball coach for ever since I know him. So, being an assistant sometimes gets, he's just an assistant. Dude, you are not just an assistant. What I told you, those meetings you have, those are real. You know what I mean? Those are real. And they're real and they're painful sometimes, and you have to have a thick skin. It was so great to have him. It was so great.
Yeah, it's funny. We always talk about how small the Jewish world is, but I guess it's funny too how small the basketball world is.
Kind of is. Pop, we'll take on that stupid rule change next time because I think we've taken up people's time.
Yep, sure. So. Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up at that point because it was about an hour and a half gone by. But when he was talking about all those pages of scouts on the plays, I was
yeah, Pop, you heard that, right? Made you a little uncomfortable.
Now I was curious about was the goal to memorize every single action?
You rep those actions. I was going to get into it with him. You rep those actions with either your second team or your third team, or you're repping those, and then it's kind of like what what the coach at Randolph-Macon said about Yeshivah. It's hard to replicate it. But here you have standard, down screen, back screen, zipper, horns, whatever it is, and you pin downs, or what we call down screen. You have those are choreographed movements, so you can put them on pieces of paper like that. And I yeah.
So the point of having all those pages is not to understand the goal of each play. It's just.
Oh no! The point of having that page, you better know. You're a cop.
No. Yeah, of course, but you don't need 40. You don't want to do that.
You better know what they're doing. We ain't sending you 45 pages because we need you to shred them. We're sending you 45 pages. We need you to read them and know them. You understand? So you're in college, dude. It's college. And it's a double curriculum, dude. You should be smart enough to figure out. Yeah.
From a communication level, to not just like, you're expecting.
Pop, we are giving it to you. We're going to go over it in practice, or we're not. You better know it. It's your job to know it.
So you think that's
period?
Do you think that's the most effective way to go about it?
It's not the way I would do it, but again, I've seen it done that way successfully. And obviously, Travis has been highly successful. So, and as Adam said, he cut it back to whatever 7 favorites or whatever. I mean, that's usually how that works. But people don't understand. That's it's a lot. If you don't know anything about college basketball, or if you don't know anything about coaching, you think because you see them on TV or you're at a game or whatever. Coaching, the whole dynamic is extremely different. There are knockout, drag-out fights with some of those guys on his staff, on Travis's staff or Kellogg's staff. They're like best friends, and they get after each other because you're responsible for this guard play. You're responsible for this post play. Our guards suck. Our post guys can't pass. That happens. That's real. And when you work on it, the days you have to wait, and then it's over. And then that stuff is real. That really happens, and so it can be what's the word? Territorial. That's my recruit. That kind of thing. I don't like that because they're our recruits, but there's a lot more to that. Let's take care of that sometime next week when we go on again. Probably
for sure.
Monday.
Yeah, Monday. We could plug it in now.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we're gonna figure it out. I can't commit right now because I'm going away for the holiday on Wednesday, so I don't think I can do it in Detroit. So
right. Coach is going to the Motor City. If any fans tuning in want to.
So the good news is, first prize 1 week in Detroit, second prize 2 weeks. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. First prize 2 weeks in whatever.
Special thanks to Adam Ginsburg for coming on with us. Special thanks as always to Coach. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great rest of your evening. Remember to count the Omer, and that'll do it for episode.
Yeshiva League Pass. We got to thank Pop.
Yeshiva League Pass, and subscribe to the Harold Katz podcast.
That's it. And Pop for getting us on the air. There you go.
I'm back in the saddle.
All right. Here we go, guys. Have a great night.